初は、インギーさんの、Love for JavaScript でしたかで、お願いします。Whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody, again. Okay, let's see. Vroom, vroom. Let's begin. Okay. So this is a talk called Perl Love for JavaScript Hackers. And I'm Ingi.net, also known sometimes as Ingi.dnet. My mom has written letters to me. She thought I was actually spelled Ingi. Here. I've been actually received mail as Ingi.botnet. Not sure what that's all about. I'm expecting one that's like Ingi.net, or maybe Ingi.net. But this is my favorite part of my name is that my initials are ID. So when I'm asked to ID things, I can literally just ID things. It's very cool. Okay, so today I'm actually going to talk about real down low Unix programming of Perl and JavaScript and show how you can fit those together nicely. I'm going to show you how to make a web page. Literally make a web page. So when you need to make something, always start with a make file. Okay. So a little bit of an aside. This morning at breakfast I was talking to Larry and I realized that Larry was responsible for one of the 3 most important computer technologies, as far as I'm concerned, Perl. So yeah, I thought that was nice. So, of course, number 1 is the symlink, because that lets you do everything. Number 2 is the Perl. As Larry pointed out in a previous talk, it makes you do everything. And number 3 is the make file, because it lets you make everything. Yeah. It's a funny kind of. Okay, so let me give you some basics of makefiles, because I think, how many people use makefiles in their everyday JavaScript programming? Yes. Me and Gugat. I make Gugat actually do it. No pun intended. So, but you should. Make is a great way to automate things that you're going to do, and what we're going to do is write some very little code, some very little data, and automate putting it all into a little pretty website. So here's how I write makefiles, and you can do it too. The first thing in the makefiles is you declare the stuff that you use over and over in the makefile as variables. So it's really just kind of a way to get rid of duplication. So put these variables at the top. And then the rule is the first thing that has a colon after it. So the very first rule, if you type make assumes that you want to execute the very first rule. And you can make anything that ends with a colon here. Now, how make works is it goes out and it looks at all these dependency things and it makes those first, and then finally it executes these commands, and these are supposed to make whatever you're making. And this will make a lot more sense when I show you the actual example, the code example, but I just want to give you a little familiarity. So down here we have a couple of special variables. These are the only 2 that I really use. Okay? So in this command, I execute the shell command, and $less gets replaced by dependency 3, and $@ gets replaced by file1. So maybe in this command, I run some command that takes as its input dependency 3 and writes as its output the thing I'm trying to make, which is file1. And then most makefiles end with some kind of clean statement that lets you delete all the stuff that you don't want to, that was just kind of generated. And so if you just kind of want to look at the stuff in its natural state. So that's all I'll tell you about makefiles, but we'll actually be dealing quite a bit with the real makefile in a few minutes. Okay, I'm also going to show you Gemplet. And the whole takeaway from this talk is that template declare sucks. That's all I really want you to, no, I'm just kidding. Is it template? I don't even know what it's called. Template declare? Yeah, something like template declare. It sucks. Okay. Anyway, Gemplet is Template Toolkit ported to JavaScript. Almost all of Template Toolkit ported to JavaScript, except as Leon just pointed out, most of the plugins have not been ported to JavaScript, but that's up to somebody who needs it and port it. So it's very full-featured templating language. I mean, it's everything that you expect to find in Template Toolkit, you can expect to find in Gemplet. So in my opinion, and this is the only strong opinion I really have at this conference, is that Gemplet is the right way to do JavaScript templating. And that there's a few other frameworks, and they do it wrong. They make nice demos on their demo page, but when you go to use this with a lot of templates, and they just kind of fall down. I mean, and we'll see why that is when we go and actually work with the stuff. The one point I'll make out, and we'll actually see this today, I'm not going to make out with it, I'll make, is that you can use the same templates from the server side using Template Toolkit as you can from the client side using Gemplet with 0 changes. So we'll see that. People talk about, well, the web browser doesn't do YAML, and that's true. There isn't a good YAML parser. But I like to use YAML when I'm defining data, when I'm describing data. And then since it doesn't work in JavaScript, I just convert it on the fly when I need it. So part of what the makefile will do is convert the writable YAML into the browser-readable JSON. So, I didn't really say JSON in there, but that's what I was trying to say. So, and one other little thing I'll show you is this JSPM thing that I talked about yesterday. And JSPM is just my new kind of way of putting important JavaScript modules onto CPAN. And we actually use this to grade a website that we're about to generate because we need jQuery. Well, it's just installed in my Perl libs, and we can pull it out in the makefile really easily and put it into our website. So I don't know how many of you kind of find this, but Audrey pointed this out once, and I find it very true. All programming is really just origami. It's this kind of origami. So it's just you have some code and some data, and you just keep refolding it until you get what you want. So without further ado, let's start hacking. Okay. So I'm going to switch browsers here. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure that everything's clean here. So here's a little directory called Hacker Gallery. And I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'll say make this. And we'll do this several times. And then this is going to make an index.html file for me. You can see that's kind of the last thing it does here is make this index.html. And so I can open that in a browser on a Mac just by saying open. And that's nice. And I get Larry Wall, the beautiful Larry Wall. Let's make this browser. How do I? So should I just kill this browser and restart it?
I broke it.
You did. It's all Larry's fault. Okay, let's just kill it. Close all these tabs. There we go. That's better. And let me just go open it again. Yay. Okay. So this is our website that we're going to generate. And what happens is, well, let's not worry about what happens. So let's look and see what we got. We got this HTML. Now that's not too much HTML, right? You have a head, you have one script, and you have a title, you have a picture, and an image of Larry Wall, and that's it. That's the whole thing. But we'll see this website does a little bit more with the JavaScript. So, okay, let's go over and look at the make file. Okay, so I'm going to do a make clean again and see what's involved in making that index.html. Okay, so we have a make file. That puts it all together. We have a data.yaml file. And let's take a look at that real quick. We can guess what this website is doing. Okay, it looks like we have a list of hackers. It's got a title, Ingi's JavaScript Perl Talk, YAPC Tokyo 2008. We got some hackers, their hacks, their images, and their names. And a heading called the Hacker Gallery, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously that data is going to play in somehow. If we look at the images, we got pictures of all these hackers, obviously. So we have a little JavaScript file, 340-byte JavaScript file. Let's take a look at that. Okay. How many people are JavaScript hackers here? You know, at some level, code a little JavaScript at work. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's too bad. Anyway, because this talk is about JavaScript, I guess maybe you're just forced to go to the English room because there's not a room in the other places. Anyway, I'm hoping that some of you are just being modest. So this uses jQuery, and what it does is executes this function that adds a click handler to the picture area of the thingy, of the website. And this click function will get the target, increment some kind of number, look it up in the data.json. We haven't even seen the data.json. We have a data.yaml file. But obviously, that's going to data.json will get created somehow. And then it renders this template called hacker.html and creates, and just looks like it switches pictures. And that's what it really does. So that's all the JavaScript, the custom JavaScript that we wrote. And then there's a template directory. So let's look in the template directory. I have 3 templates. And let's take a look at those templates. So, okay. Let's go look at hacker. Okay. I want to look at the wrapper, and I think that's called outer. Okay, so this is your basic HTML. You notice I pull in 5 JavaScript libraries. Well, I only pull in 1. This one is actually comprised of these 4, but I comment them out with template toolkits or Gemplet, either one. You can use them interchangeably. Comment feature here. And as Jesse, I think, or somebody said yesterday, maybe CO, I don't know. Anyway, you only really want to have one JavaScript file on any website. You want to combine them all together. And so we'll actually pull in all these JavaScript pieces and create this one, javascript.js. It'll make your site a lot faster. Down at the bottom, we have some kind of content. So that's the content wrapper, and that's where hacker will go. And then I wrote a little script subroutine. So block is like a subroutine, and it creates little script things for these different script things here. So let's go back, see what's in main. Okay, so main is the template. It gets wrapped by the outer thing that we just looked at. It has the heading. It has a div called picture that we attach the click handler to, so we don't have to keep reattaching the click. The click won't, the outer div won't change. It'll be the inside hacker thing that will change. Now, in this case, in the first rendering, we're going to use template toolkit to render hacker.html, and then every other time we'll use Gemplet, as we saw, to render hacker.html. Okay, so let's go look at hacker.html. Okay, and this does a little number increment. It grabs a number out of a bogus attribute, because it's just an example, right? We don't get too uptight about that. There's other ways to do it, of course. And it has a source of hacker's number image. So that's pretty cool. So it's, we imagine that we're going to have some hackers array available to us, and we'll go grab that number and get that hash, and then in that hash there's going to be an image name, and that's what we'll use for our image source. And then we can get the actual hack name and put it in this H2 and et cetera. Put the hacker name up here and the hack down here and the image in the middle. Okay, so that's all the template stuff. Now let's run the make file one more time and look a little bit more closely at it. So I'm going to say make. Okay, so the first thing we're doing here is we have a little line that converts the YAML into JSON. So let's just take a look at the JSON so we don't have to look at it again. It's, of course, just going to be, now, you wouldn't want to code that. I mean, you could make it nicer, but you wouldn't want to have to maintain that file. So that's why I like using YAML and converting it to this. It's pretty nice. And then, the jQuery can grab that data and apply and send that data to the template, and the template uses it. Let's look and see what else we're doing. So the next thing we're doing is getting jQuery. Now, I'll show you yesterday. So I had this js.cpan command. It's a command line command that comes with the JS module. And if you just say JS, it'll show you everything that's installed on your system that happens to be a JavaScript module. Now those modules are installed like all my Perl modules in the Perl site library, but we don't really care. It's just JavaScript. It's cool. It can live down there. So now we want to actually find where does jQuery live. So we use the same command, but we pass it the jQuery thing. And we find, oh, it's just sitting in that Perl lib. It's all namespaced under JS. It's just a nice thing to do, so you know that it's probably JavaScript in there, and et cetera. So if we were to, look at this file, then we would see that this is indeed a copy of jQuery. And so what are we doing in the make file again? Let's look. We are the make file. We'll call this in backticks, which will return the full path of where it's installed, and we'll cat it into $@, which I learned in my little demo. It's just really this name, jQuery.js. So now we have a jQuery.js locally, and if we look at jQuery.js, it's the same thing. Okay. Let's go make clean, make again. Okay. So the next thing that we do is we get the Gemplet stuff. Now, Gemplet has a runtime component that you need. You have to have one copy of it. So if you could have several Gemplet compilations, but you have to have at least one runtime. So we put that in a file called gemplet.js. And then we compile all of the templates. Now, here's the template directory, right? And you just say gemplet minus compile gemplet template, and that's a directory. And it'll take all the templates in there and compile it into some gemplets.js, some JavaScript, and we'll look at that JavaScript. Now, this is how template systems work. Not too many people know this. You just have this template, and you apply these variables, and it just comes out. But what it really does, in most cases, is it takes the template and compiles it to a native language subroutine of that same name, and it just does a bunch of string concatenations. It takes the string, the variables used, the looping constructs used, and turns it all into just a subroutine that returns the string that you're trying to format. And so when I took a template toolkit and moved it over to JavaScript as Gemplet, all I had to do was subclass one module in template toolkit, which was, the template toolkit compiles the templates into a parse tree and then walks that parse tree and produces Perl code. So I just wrote a subclass that produced JavaScript code. And that was simple, but then I had to write a little runtime. So we get that. So now we have, let's look again at the make file. Okay. So all the JavaScript is going to be the jQuery, the Gemplet runtime, the Gemplet compilation, and that little my.js. And we'll take all of the JavaScript and concatenate that into something called JavaScript.js. So I just use cat here, and it puts all the files into one file. Pretty simple. Okay, so now the last thing I do is finally make the index.html. And here's the real kind of heart and soul of this. Okay, so it's kind of a long statement, but basically I'm loading a YAML. So we actually read the YAML file directly because we're going to render the server side. We don't have to move it. We don't have to use the JSON. They're the same thing, right? So we're going to read in that file, pass it to template process with the main.html, which is going to render the whole page with this data, and number will be set to 0, and we'll get the first Larry Wall picture. Now I added a compile dir so that we could see what template toolkit actually turns these templates into, and then compare that to what Gemplet actually turns these templates into. So let's take a look at that real quick. Actually, I'm going to go back to the website. Okay, so now here's the idea of this thing. It's like you just click on it, and here's a picture of Guido. Here's a picture of Richard Stallman. It's a picture of Audrey. It's a picture of Damien. It's a picture of Matt. Picture of Dan. Picture of Jesse. It's a picture of Kawasaki. Picture of Gugad. and a picture of me. And then we're done. So that's the whole website, and then it starts over. Okay. So that's our little website. Let's go back over here. And so we have these 3 templates. And if we look at in the compiler, which is called TT, you'll see that we also have 3 things of the same name. Now let's go look in there. Oops. Okay, so we'll take the outer. So you can see that this is just a Perl subroutine that returns the concatenation of all of those things, and it has a runtime component called stash that it uses to go and grab variables from the hash that you pass it. But that's really the whole thing, and then it does a little error capturing, et cetera, et cetera. There's the subroutine that I defined under def blocks. And Gemplet looks almost exactly the same, except it's in JavaScript. So let's go look at Gemplets.js. So here you can see that I have a template map. So we have hacker.html. This is the function. It's doing all the same stuff. It's calling the same kind of stash runtime component to go and get things. And then concatenates them all together and returns the output. It's very simple. Here's the next template, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the way these other JavaScript template engines work is that you actually code your templates into the HTML as inside of hidden text areas, and then you have to worry about all kinds of escaping issues. And so you're sending this whole template library with every page hit, whether it's used or not. Now, with this JavaScript stuff, if you have it properly cached, you're sending it the first time the person hits the page, and then it's on their browser forever. And so they have the whole template library cached on their site. So we can continually send these little tiny HTML startups and then have them use the stuff that's already compiled on their server. The other thing, or on their client, at Social Text, we use this quite a bit. We have about 500 template toolkit libraries, and we decided we wanted to start rendering some of this stuff. But this old legacy stuff, you know, we decided we wanted to start rendering some of this at the client side at client time to get some performance trade-offs. And so all I did was I took a Gemplet directory that was empty, and then I made symlinks back to the templates that I actually wanted, and I compiled that new directory, and then I just got the JavaScript, and I was able to, I made no changes to these templates at all. So if you go and look at like trim path template or a couple of the other JavaScript template frameworks, they do all of the compilation at compile time. They do all of the download on every page hit, and you don't even know if you're ever going to use this stuff, right? And if you try to do something like Social Text with 500 templates, well, it's going to be ridiculous. You're going to have, you know, a megabyte per page load when it's only, you only need a few lines. So this is really the way to do JavaScript templating. And if you're a Perl guy, then it's really the way to do it. So I think what was the next thing I wanted to show? I want to ask if there's any questions right now while I kind of reorganize my brain.
今の時点で何か質問のある方いますか?
Yeah.
What's the name of the directory under the Tokyo?
Oh, it's 2. It's my second talk, right?
ディレクターの名前は文字化けしてるんではなくて2という感じだそうです。僕もてっきり文字化けだと思ってました。
I don't know. It's Unicode, man. You should learn about it. It's pretty cool. Okay. So, sorry, this is where I get a little bit unorganized. Simon has to have some question out there. No questions? Okay. Okay, so Let me just take a look at the make file, see if I'm putting anything interesting. Okay, so let's actually go and look at the my thing again. So I just wanted to show you the process command is really the only command you ever use. You say gemplet process, and you tell it the top level template that you want to use, and any other templates just get included. All of the templates are already loaded from the template compilation JavaScript file that you made, and then data can either be a data object or a string that's a URL of where to go get that JSON data. And then this can either be a DOM element reference or the ID of a DOM element in the DOM. And then basically it applies this data to this template, takes the resulting string, and inner HTMLs it into this DOM element. So it's pretty much the whole usage of it. And that's about it. So I think, I actually wanted to note that Jonathan Rockway has a new book out, pretty new, right? It's called Catalyst. It's called what, John? It's just called Catalyst? Oh, awesome. So came out this winter, and he has a whole chapter on Gemplet, right? And I think he points out that he uses it to great success by taking template toolkit stuff that he already has and just compiling it to JavaScript and doing it client time type of deal. So.
Actually, Catalyst has a plugin for PRL that compiles the template stuff for you automatically.
Oh, okay.
That's my module.
Thanks. That's Miyagawa's module, this Catalyst Gemplet plugin. Very good. No questions, Miyagawa? It's all answered. Oh, Leon has a question. Yeah.
What's coming up next?
For Gemplet, well, I'll tell you what came up just recently. Somebody joined Pound Gemplet IRC and then in a couple of weeks submitted a 20K patch. So we just put out a brand new release of Gemplet a couple of weeks ago. And he added a lot of really nice stuff. So you can choose from any number of, it used to give you your own Ajax and JSON support if you wanted it. Now you can actually exclude all that stuff, or you can choose from many different implementations of that stuff. It's all in all these command line arguments, and you can get it all spit out packed for you or minified. And oh, and the other thing is, so the one thing that's always kind of bugged me about Gemplet was it would require at least some Perl knowledge, right, to be able to use this thing. But really, it's only the Perl knowledge to install it, right? Because when you're using it, it's just a command line command. So what I actually did in this last release was I ship a Gemplet that's actually 400K long, but it includes every Perl module, and luckily they were all pure Perl. So you can just download that Gemplet script from the web and use it, assuming your machine has Perl, which if it's a computer in this year 2008, it does. So every machine has Perl. Thank you, Larry. Yeah?
Have you tried using it on DOMs that are not HTML DOMs, like XML documents, XML documents?
Oh, that don't have inner HTML, that type of thing. Yeah. Well, that wouldn't work. Yeah. I don't think, unless I actually at one point was thinking of writing a kind of a slow fake inner HTML that would work in that kind of case. You know, you could do it. It would just be some extra work. But yeah, if you plugged in the fake inner HTML library, it should just work. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Oh, No questions, of course.
質問とかありますか？てかさっき質疑応答みたいになったんですけど、タイミング逃して通訳できませんでした。日本語の質問とかないですか？
What did that mean?
Is there any question in Japanese? And I missed the cue of starting my questions, so I couldn't translate all the stuff that you guys were talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway, no questions?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. We're actually